Hey Kimberly, let's take a look at your week 4 assignment 2 drawing. This is, I think, a nice job in in one respect of just getting an entire page filled with a very kind of nice even value. Marker-wise, it doesn't feel like there's any mark making being done, although I do feel like there's a good amount of marker underneath everything. It doesn't feel like you're working with, like with the blind where we actually see individual strokes and things like that. And it's really kind of impressive, especially where we start to see some of these areas where there's kind of a lighter kind of gray and a darker gray, but the gradation is so subtle that you really barely even see it. And I think that works out really well in some of these areas. There's a few areas where I'd almost like to see it happen a little bit more, where the white or the highlight were standing out a little bit more. But I think overall it has a nice kind of feel to it. It might be the scan. I'm not sure, but it doesn't have quite as dynamic of a range of value as the ad does. There's some grays kind of along the sides that are a little bit darker. There's highlights that are a little bit lighter that I think you haven't gone quite as dark or quite as light. And to be honest with you, I'll bet you anything a lot of this has been photoshopped in. Some of these things look a little bit too clean to be even realistic. But I think that's one thing that you always have to kind of be careful of in any situation is, and this, like in drawing, it's one of the kind of the main issues as you start to get into week 3 or 4 of drawing, is that you have to have a good range of value. You really have to hit the full spectrum for the drawing to feel as realistic and dynamic as it can. But that's not to say that it feels flat. It doesn't. I think it does do a great job of getting this kind of brushed metallic texture in place. It does a great job of feeling very subtly shiny, like the way a stainless steel object would. And I thought you did a great job with the line work, keeping everything nice and clean, little details like the highlights, some really nice work being done in some of the smaller details in the water, even the logo down at the bottom. Nice job of trying to, as best you can, replicate the font and how it actually is very thin, a sans serif. Good Greeking in place as well in both the top and the bottom. So I think it's a nice job. I think that the next assignment is going to be much more difficult because there's going to be multiple elements in place, multiple textures, and I think a much wider range of value. But I think this really shows a really soft hand, and I think a great job of paying attention to detail that I think is really difficult to perceive. And I think it ended up looking like a great ad. Not as much color as I would like, but I think more than enough texture and gradation than I could ask for.